Good evening, friends. Hope you're having a wonderful evening. Doc. There you go, see? You can see her. We're gonna go on a night hike. About some storytelling, and got myself a cigar for our journeys. On a beautiful cold fall evening nights like this, it's just perfect to have yourself a nice cigar. Again, not something you should do on a regular basis, but always nice, and to go for a hike. So what we're going to do is we're going to go for a hike up the mountain. So fun living in the country. And we're going to talk a little bit about what there is to talk about. So I'm not sure how much light this is actually going to portray. Now you guys can kind of see the ground a little bit. I got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. I think we're gonna start off with a little storytelling. So I can't see the stars. Normally I'd like to tell stories of the stars. But today we're just gonna talk a little bit of story about why wolves howl at the moon. I'm not sure if you guys know this story. It's a very, very fun folklore story. But that's the story we're going to tell today. So, unfortunately, Terry, there is no hobbits. At least in my shire, there is not. I had to climb over my fence. So we're just going to enjoy the nice hiking. In the future, I'm working on setting up my thermal camera to work with this phone. So when I get my thermal camera working, we'll do some thermal camera hikes, and some other things. But right now we're just kind of enjoying the darkness and the cigars and the last little bit of the leaves rustling as we're going for a walk. I'm not sure if you guys can hear the leaves. Trying to walk carefully. So let's begin with the story. So I was told this story many years ago. I would say probably when I used to be a camp counselor in the late 90s. And we had some friends that were part of a local tribe. And as we're sitting around the campfire, thinking up interesting things to do, they decided to tell us the story of why wolves howl at the moon. We had just heard some wolves howling at the moon, and so it was just kind of a fun question asking, why do wolves howl at the moon? And of course, being there, you're going to have a lot of different people tell you, the scientific reasons and that kind of stuff. But if you really think about it, it's a very odd phenomenon for an animal to do. So our friend decided to tell us the story. And the story begins, like all good stories do, with two lovers. I believe the man's name was Wakoda. We're just going to call him Wayne. for the sake of storytelling. Yeah, I'm completely whitewashing this story, but that's okay. So we have this dude who is absolutely has the love of his life, and they live in the realm between. So maybe I'll give you a little backstory of the realm between. So there's a spiritual realm. There is the realm of reality, the one that we are living in. And then there is the realm between. So the realm between is where a lot of the spirits that you talk to, some people would say the angels, the demons, the kami, that's the realm between. So in the realm between, that's where the spirits, they kind of play, when they want to play with our lives and they want to do interesting things. That is mostly where the realm of these people come to. So the voices you hear in the wind. So when the wind howls and you hear voices, when you hear animals make weird, interesting noises that sound like human voices, that is the realm in between. That is them storytelling. That is them talking, making it audible to remind us that there is the realm of in between. But back to the story. So we have the two lovers. Great, beautiful relationship. But in the realm between, like all realms, there is a trickster. And this trickster thought it'd be funny to play gags, because that's what tricksters do. So the trickster went to Wakanda Wayne and said, "You know your lover. She has this favorite flower, but it only blooms in the real world, in the realm of the living." So he described this beautiful flower. And Wayne decided to go on this fun adventure and say, "I'm going to find this flower. I'm going to bring this back." And she has not seen this flower for millennia. I'm going to bring this flower back to her. So he adventures off into the realm of the living. Now, he's not spent time in the realm of the living, but of course the trickster has. And the trickster knows that if you don't make it back by the time the sun is set, you are trapped in the realm of the living for eternity. And this flower that the trickster had him go on this journey to find, he knew that it only bloomed at night. This beautiful white flower with purple center. And so when Wakanda Wayne found this flower, it wasn't opened yet. And he wanted, and he sat there and he waited for it to open. And it started opening as the sun was setting, and the sun set. And there he was, trapped. In the realm of the living. So he pleaded to the gods, "Please, please let me go back." And the god says, "No, you know the rules. That you can, by day, spend time in the realm of the living. But during the evening months, you absolutely cannot. I have a little flashlight on my phone that's working right now. So my cigar is keeping me light. Plus, I got good night vision. So Wakanda Wayne says, the gods won't help me. Where else may I turn? So he contacts some other spirits. And he meets the spirits of the wolf tribe. And the wolf tribe hears the story about the trickster. And the head of the wolf tribe, who has also been tricked by the trickster, reaches out to the animal spirits and transforms Wakanda Wayne into a wolf. And why into a wolf? They chose a wolf out of all the animal spirits that they could. They chose the wolf because they looked at the way society was functioning. They looked at the ridiculousness of how the modern humans were just killing for sport. We're just decimating the crops. We're just treating their poor, treating their weak as worthless. And they wanted a way to also frighten these folks, frighten the people, and remind them of their importance and the power that they have of being human. And to stop being ridiculous and stop wasting their gifts. So they gave them the eyes that glow and the white fangs to scare the children, to scare the adults. But Wakanda Wayne, who is now a wolf, while this was interesting and while he felt he had purpose again, he still missed his lover. He still missed the woman that he left in the realm in between. She also missed the love of her life. And so she petitioned to the sun and asked the sun, is there any way, sun, that you can help? Is there any way that you can help me communicate and at least see my lover again? And the sun spirit said, why, yes. Yes, I can. Once a month, I can give up a portion of my light. We can bring a rock up into the sky, and for a portion of my light, we can illuminate that rock. But there will be consequences. And the lover says, I am willing to accept those consequences. And the consequences are, you will not, and no other woman from now on will ever be able to bear child, will bear the seed during these times. But you will be able to peek through the moon. You'll be able to stand and use the moon as a looking glass to look down upon earth and view your lover. So they accepted the bargain. And the moon gave their small portion of their energy every month in a regular cycle. And Wakanda Wayne, who's now a wolf, used the spirit language every full moon to remind his lover how much he loves her, how much he misses her. And when you hear the wolf howl to the moon, you know that that's a love story. It is a bittersweet love story of longing, of passion, of missing, of connection. And that's why the great spirits have told us about the moon. And that's why the great spirits have done a lot of the interesting things with that. And this rock that was brought into the sky had other ramifications, because the great spirits know that nothing comes without sacrifice. And so sacrifices were made. And more will be made in the future. But that is for future stories and other interesting tales to add to the lore in the future. So don't fear the call of the wolf. Because I know some people, you'll hear a wolf call and you'll be frightened. Don't be frightened. Even though I live in the middle of nowhere, there's still a lot of light. One day, my friends, all of this light will be gone. So I don't know how yet, but that's my goal. Because, there's the church, there's my neighbor's house. My house is like a gap right there. I have Jake's working on something in the bathroom. That's why the light's on over there. I can't climb this fence. If you guys want to see where I'm at, I'm going over this fence right now. Can't climb this fence, but so I think we're going to. I'm going to have Lisa help me off with some. In the future, we're going to do some more hikes. We will add more to the stories. I know tons and tons of wonderful stories. That are just really nice to tell, either on a night hike or sitting by a campfire. Stories of the stars, stories of the spirits, stories of the times before, stories of the spiritual realm. The realm of the gods, and also the realm of the living. My favorite stories are really, though, the stories of the realm between. I'm just such a big fan of all of that. It's so intriguing to me. Yeah, I need to get a little bit brighter light. I need to get my thermal light to work, because a thermal night hike will be really fun. I don't know if you guys have ever used a thermal cam at night, but a thermal cam at night is very fun. I have a thermal cam I use for my beehives, but I've learned some fun tricks with just walking around with it at night, and then looking at bushes and just seeing all the wildlife that's actually there, that all of the life that is underneath our feet that we just don't know. So I'm not a wizard. I am not a wizard fae. But what a wonderful goal to maybe when I'm done reincarnating as human, that might be a fun realm. That might be a fun adventure to adventure into. By the way, guys, if you don't know this, I'm very, very knowledgeable about fae lore, so especially fae folklore. I'm a really big fan of why we tell those stories and the importance of telling the stories, and the stories that we've lost over the years because, well, we either thought they were silly, or Hollywood has morphed those stories into craziness. But, the fairy tales and folklore, and stories we tell children and stories we tell at campfires, they actually have a lot of value in society. And those are things that we should bring back to the best of our abilities. Thank you, Yam, for the ice cream. What's cool is it's not as cool for you guys, but for me, because I can see a little bit more light than you guys, it's really creepy just being able to walk upon, as we just slowly walk upon these bales of hay as they just kind of appear. I also was wearing my red glasses, so I love the dark. It's not as dark as I hope, see? That light is way too bright. I wish it was darker. Wish it was a lot darker. Though I can see the Milky Way here, and that's what's really cool. So, question for you guys. What other kind of stories would you like to hear? Is there stories of things that exist in life that interest you? So, if there are, I will find those stories, and on our next night hike, we will go on and do some midnight tales of stories. I will tell you one of, as we're heading back, I still got a little bit before. I still got about that much of my cigar left, so we got a little bit before we head back. I'll tell you another good story. I'm going to tell you the story of Queen Anne's lace. So that's most of you've probably seen this flower. It's a very prevalent white flower in the middle of summer. There's a lot of interesting folklore, but I'm going to go with just more of the European traditional aspect of the story. With a slight modification, because I've heard a couple modifications to it, and I do enjoy the modifications. So, and Terry's correct, it is wild carrot. That's also the value of why it's important to tell this story, because telling the story is a way for younger generations to quickly be able to identify the plant. So kind of like how we view commercials and such today, this was a telling the story of the Queen Anne's lace was a way to remind everyone that this is an edible and that you can use this to wildcraft. So how the story goes. And I'm going to put the fairy twist to it because that's the way I know the story. So, we had a very young Princess Anne, or we can just refer to her as a princess. So we had a very young princess wandering through the forest. And she loved flowers of all sorts. She loved daisies. And black-eyed Susans. And purple flowers that she didn't know the name for. But she was a huge fan of the rose. And she used to tell stories of how the rose she was telling stories of how the rose was the superior flower of them all. And how it was just perfect. But the Fae out there in the world were trying to tell her, no, there's other flowers to love just as much. And that the rose, while had wonderful beauty, had the deep, dark, dangerous secret. But Princess Anne was not buying any of that. She had seen the roses that were picked for her. Let me get through this gate. And she was saying, nah, there's nothing wrong with this rose. It is a perfect, perfect bloom. And the Fae kept trying to convince her otherwise, saying, no, this flower can feed you. This flower has beauty. This flower has a very long life. But Queen Anne refused to listen. So one day, she stumbled off into the woods, and she could smell the aroma of the roses in the air. And she just kept tracking through the woods, going through all of the weeds. But the smell was so strong, so she decided to leave the trail. And then she came across a rose bush. Wild roses with their giant thorns. And they grabbed onto her clothing and they pulled at her. And her not experiencing before the grasp of roses, being that she grew up only seeing roses picked and brought into the house, not knowing that they had thorns, was confused and thought that she was in the grasp of some dangerous animal pulling her, holding her back. The Fae showed up, and the Fae laughed, and the Fae laughed, and played up. Because for those that don't know about the Fae, as they are absolutely tricksters, all fairies love the keck. They love to trick. They love to confuse. So the fairies told her to, with all of your might, grab onto those things and pull them off. And so Queen Anne did. Or Princess Anne did. And now she has blood all over her beautiful dress. Pricks on her fingers. and is cursing the name of the roses now. Said, I was lied to. These were perfect flowers, but they are so dangerous. And the fae said, see, we told you there was other beautiful flowers other than roses. And as she's walking back through an empty field, she sees these beautiful white roses, these beautiful white flowers growing. And the fae says, look at these. And Queen Anne reached down and touched the tip of the flower because she just thought they were so beautiful. And a drop of her blood went right in the center of the flower. And the fae thought it would be a grand joke to make sure that that black spot always black. It's actually a really dark red, dark crimson red. Thought it would be a great joke for Princess Anne for the rest of her life that every time she looks upon white flowers growing in a field, she would know of the dangers of other flowers and other things, and how this beautiful lace flower was a gentle flower, and if she just would have listened to the fae, she would have not been injured on her crazy adventures, and to not be lured by beautiful smells, and to not wander off in areas that you're unfamiliar with. And sometimes the adults in your life don't always tell you the dangers, and so it's always best to be aware and to be extra cautious. And so from that time on, she absolutely took heed, learned what flowers, what plants, what things in her life were safe, and rarely again ever pricked herself on the wild brambles. And held the Queen Anne, this beautiful white flower, Queen Anne's lace, as reverence to the story to pass along to those of her tale. So, but what's a great, and you can shorten the story, you can make it longer, but what's great about the story is it adds, it tells you about, because most everybody can positively identify roses, and roses usually grow on the edge of fields, and usually if you can go just outside of that edge, you can usually always find Queen Anne, because it's a pioneer species. It likes to grow just on the edge, just like the transition from the forests to the woods, where roses will grow right on the edge of the woods, or right on the edge, just a little bit past the roses is where you'll find the Queen Anne flowers. And so it's a great way to help people identify them. And the red/black spot is also very important, because there's also mimicking flowers that are deadly. Hemlock is an example of a flower that looks very similar to Queen Anne, but is a very deadly flower that you should try to avoid. And it does not have the beautiful center black-red flowers in that. So that's two stories that I know. The story of why the wolves howl at the moon, and the story of Queen Anne and why we have Queen Anne's lace. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's night hike. Let's see if this gives me enough light to see. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed those stories. I know lots of stories, so one day we will get in more in-depth stories out there. I'm just getting some really light, fun stories that I know. nothing too spooky. But today, if like Yam's correct, it is November 1st. And what a lot of people don't know about November 1st is November 1st is All Saints Day. So this is a day that we worship or we praise all of the great spirits. Some people refer to it as saints, but all of the great spirits that help protect us, the kami, the pagan, the pagan spirits, and if you're Catholic or something, you have the patron saints, things of that sort. And a lot of cultures have the people that are worth worshiping today. But it's just a good day. Today should be a very positive day. Starting now, today should be a very positive day of wonderful energies. Good usually wins out a lot today, so look for all the good as you go to bed. Think of all of the good that has the potential of appearing for you today, and all of the good that will come in your life tomorrow, because good energy is extra strong. That is something I think a lot of people have left out when it comes to All Hallows Eve and the Day of the Spirits, and then also leading into the Day of the Dead. And we will talk more about the Day of the Dead in the future, because that's also another wonderful thing. On the Day of the Dead, we'll actually head over to the cemetery, and we will thank them for all that they have done in their past life, and what they've done to better our lives. So it's kind of on the Day of the Dead, I think being in a cemetery and understanding that those are post-humans, and that those humans help build what we have today. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Maybe we'll do a night hike on the Day of the Dead as well, and I'll tell you some wonderful stories of tombstones and why some of the folklore behind things of that sort is. So I'm going to do this new series. Not only we're going to talk about during the days, we'll talk about farming, we'll talk about my typical Thursday night shows, we're going to talk about crazy stuff. But I also want to get into just adding more folklore into life, because folklore has been ripped. Like as Terry said, Disney has bastardized it, has made it so that it's separated it from why we tell these stories, why it's important for us to know stories that we used to tell. And I'd like to bring back in the ceremony, the pageantry, the stories, the lore, the funness behind all of that. So anyways, it's Doc. Thank you for joining me on this night hike. I look forward to another day in the future where we get to go on more wonderful fun hikes and really good one cigar hikes. So anyways, friends, it's Doc. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day. Until tomorrow, adios. Sleep well. Sweet dreams. See you guys all there. Adios.